Good morning to everyone, and thank you for tuning in to this webinar, which is a part of the Arthur Holm Expo 2020 Virtual Expo. We have been doing sessions the last couple of days, and the next general session is at 1:00 p.m. Central European Time, and another one at 5 if you should be interested. My name is Arthur Holm. I'm the CEO of Arthur Holm, and I'll be taking you through a bit about the DynamicShare, DynamicLoop, our ERT, and our AHlink. You are welcome to ask questions. If you see on your screen, you'll find a place where this is questions, and we will answer the questions after the presentation. As well, if you want or you need further information, you can contact us at Arthur Holm marketing at arthurholm.com, or if you have our email addresses, you're welcome to use those or give us a call on the phone. So let's get started. So what it is all about is to have tools that works really well together. A meeting room is not just a room to gather people. It's a room where you want to inspire. You need to feel comfortable. It has to be comfortable to use. It has to be adaptable to the current situation. And now the current situation for the last 8 months have changed a lot. Due to the coronavirus, we are not meeting, we're not working as we used to do, and for sure for the next year and a half, 2 years, it's something we'll get used to before we go back to the old normality. At least that's my opinion. But all the surveys that have been done recently as well, that's only 13% of the people working from home who would like to continue this. The rest need to be among other people. We are human beings. They need to get inspiration. They need to have the talk by the coffee machine. They need to have those inspiration that comes out of constructive talks or out of crazy ideas. Another thing we have learned in this time is there's a lot of product available to do what we're doing now. We're doing a webinar. There's a lot of other products available as well to do conference calls and so on, but they don't all work the same. And at the end up, we all use those that works, which is close to a handful. So we can reflect that onto the ERT, the share system, and the AHnet. We do everything we can to make this as easy for the system integrator as possible. All what I'll be talking about, with a couple of exceptions, is for the system integrator. It's not for the end user to benefit from, except from the interface when you're using the product. But the technology behind it, the restrictions, the way to go around them and so on, is for the system integrator. So the DynamicShare basically is to share information from your own device between monitors. It's a setup that is based on cabling. The reason why we want to use cabling is to avoid having any frame delays. Using cables is straightforward. You don't need any special attention when you're setting up the system. So when the monitors are connected, in this case, we're using HDMI cable between the monitors, you get a monitor with DynamicShare built in. The only thing you have to add when they're connected to the table is power, and you're ready to go. The attendees just need to be able to connect their device, meaning with an HDMI cable that can be motorized on the side of the monitor, and then press a button. That's all they have to do. They don't have to start going into their device. They don't have to have the latest update of their laptop firmware or software, or have downloaded the latest firmware for the sharing protocol that is being used or the connectivity. Beside this, since we are using cable, it is extremely secure. Today in our world, nothing is for sure. So you can also tap into cables, but it's much more complicated than it is to tap into a wireless system. We have this dynamic share function, which is a board built in to our products, but it's also available as a standalone unit. When it is a standalone unit, you can use it with other types of monitors. You can use it for projectors, and you can use this in different configurations. DynamicShare is about sharing from each monitor, from each position. We also have DynamicLoop, which is running on the screen right now. DynamicLoop is where you take the contents from one place and distribute it to the rest of the computers. Here we can do that per line up to 90 monitors, and we are around 190 monitors as the maximum. Here with DynamicLoop, we have the same features for security and cabling and so forward. But we can only share from one position to the rest. Many times it will be from the main server. So why DynamicShare? The perfect handshake. We all know this. We look at products from different manufacturers, and by taking bits and pieces here, you can connect them, and if you get the timing, the frequencies and everything right, it will work. But what you're actually ending up with is a Frankenstein version of a connectivity that isn't that stable, that is difficult to analyze if something goes wrong. But when we, as a manufacturer, design everything for the same purpose, you get the perfect handshake, and you will have a trouble-free use of these products. So we want to preserve the high quality video signal without frame delays. We want to avoid taking up any internet connectivity or any Bluetooth connectivity within the room. We will avoid having the need of technical assistance when we're doing presentations. It has to work on its own. And we would like to optimize the installation time and also the on-site time during installation, but also later on in maintenance. So due to the physical shape of the products that we have, it's not all the products that the DynamicShare can be embedded into. They are embedded into all our vertical retractable monitors like the Dynamic2, DynamicX2, DB2, and the Albiral Smart Monitor. That is where they physically fit within the product. When we go to our horizontal products that are more horizontally mounted into the table, like the Dynamic3, like the Dynamic3 Reverse, like the Dynamic AH1, the DynamicShare or DynamicLoop, for that sake, is mounted underneath, but it's an add-on to the product. As I said before, you can use it with third-party monitors as well. So who's using DynamicShare? These guys are among our users. Mercedes, Petronas, AMG, Formula 1 team. The reason why I'm picking out these guys is because it's a pretty interesting setup they have. And I also like Formula 1 on the side. It's my personal favor to watch. But when and what are they looking for when they're using these products? They are looking for the detail. They're looking for 1/10 of a second. So they use the Arthur Holm monitor with the DynamicShare for their debriefing meetings every Monday after the race. It's extremely homogeneous for them to use, in the sense that the different teams sits around the table, and here they can get ready to do their presentation, to bring up their subjects while somebody else is presenting, and they are not losing any details. That's the whole idea. It's the details that counts. When you have your screen in front of you in high quality, high resolution without delay, that's when you can pay attention to the details. And Formula One is all about a tenth of a second. You need to look for the details. That's the difference between each team. So when we have the DynamicShare built in, we also need to have easy access. And we like to keep the table clean, so we have created a motorized cable for connectivity. So DynamicShare, here we have an example of 6 devices that has the DynamicShare built in, and you have the local input beside the screen. In this case, each screen have their own input. In this case, it's a donut. And you can see that nobody in this configuration is sharing, but they're getting the donut from the local input into their screen. In this case, screen number 1 is sharing. It's the one with the pink donut. So it comes from his device on the right-hand side into the screen, and he have activated share on his device, and everybody is seeing the same as him. A bit about the connectivity. All the connectivity is below the screen. So we have, of course, our Arthur Holm network for loopings for controlling the screens. We have our service port. We still have GPI. We have our XLR 4-pin power. And then we come to the lower section where we have Ethernet for the share. It's where it's looking for updates and so on. We say that do not have it connected all the time. We have the controls for in and out for the RS422. So you can, if you don't want the user that sits in front of the screen to share, but you want somebody to control when you share his image, that can be done as well. You have HDMI in, which is an input, alternative input you have on the screen. Remember, you have an internal HDMI cable that's coming out on the side. Then you have loop in, you have loop out, and upon request, if you want a second input underneath the unit, you can have that. That means you have actually 3 HDMI input. You have a loop in and a loop out to the next monitor. One of the special things about the DynamicLoop and share, in this case the share, is that you have to have the first monitor connected to the last monitor, as we can only send the signal in one direction. And there are some restrictions. The maximum length of cable you can have between the screens is 2 meters recommended, and it has to be 4K certified cables for best functionalities. And as I said, the first monitor have to be connected with the last one. I'll get back to how to do that, because normally 2 meters of cable will not be enough. So depending on the different units we have different types of connectivity. We have first the vertical monitor, where the connectivity, the HDMI cable is coming out on the side. It's placed under the hatch. On the Dynamic 3, it's a small hatch that opens up, as you can see it there in the middle, and the cable comes out. But if you want, you can also have a fixed HDMI connector on the cover plate. So when you have taken care of the connectivity, you have 2 interface boards for the monitors with cover plate. It can be Dynamic 3, it can also be Dynamic 2. The one that you see to the left is input and share. So what you will do in this case, you also have 1, 2, 3, and 4, where 4 is the general presentation if somebody's presenting. Is that by viewing, you will toggle between the inputs. But if not all the inputs are connected, when you're toggling, it will automatically detect and it will jump if there's nothing connected. When you are viewing what you want to share on your screen, you will press share and everybody around the table will see it. But if somebody, let's say in the Formula One case, are not interested in that part that you're presenting, it's not his specialty, he can leave the presentation and work on his own presentation. We have to remember the race was happening on Sunday. They have flown back to England, and now they're doing this Monday morning. If we go to the right-hand side where we have priority, so you see there's an extra button. And that means that in our DynamicShare, we can set up one of the units as priority. Everything else works the same way, but the priority, when that is activated, nobody can leave the presentation. They are forced to see the presentation. So until the chairman or who's in charge disactivate the priority, he has the word, and it's him who's in control of the sharing. Here a bit closer up on an explanation of the different buttons on the unit itself. So we also have product with a minimum footprint on the table. It's our DB2. Our DB2 don't have the cover plate, and that means that we don't have the interface button on the cover plate. But here we have placed them in the glass, very elegant, very clean. And on the side, we have a small tower coming up, in this case with a USB connectivity for power, and also the cable to connect your DynamicShare. You see the buttons on the screen. You have view and share. So view is to go through again the different inputs, and share is to show and to share with everybody else. This system, you can also have it with priority. And there is also a closing button on the glass, so you don't have to reach to the top of the display. If the installation do not allow you, or the monitors are placed so far into the table that it's difficult to reach, we have a button interface that can be mounted on the edge of the table. And you can have the same functionality there, and also with LEDs. So we have several options depending on the needs and what is possible within your table. The AHnet DynamicShare commands can be integrated into any control system. So you can use our setup, or you can use your favorite, or whatever you're running with, Crestron, AMX, Extron, and so forward. Through our system, when you do the DynamicShare, one of the DynamicShare units, if it's embedded or it's external, has an IP address, and you will set it as a master. And it's straightforward to set up. You can always check the different addresses, access, and of course you can set your IP address. It comes with a standard IP address from the factory. If you need us to give you support as well, it's important to change the IP address. You can also get feedback from the system to find out if everything is correct and everything is working as it should. And on top of that, you can get hardware information and software information to know if you have the latest firmware on your unit. So as I said, the maximum is 2 meters of cable. In the ideal situation, it's 2 meters of cable. But if you need to have 3 or 4 meters between one monitor or two and something, it's also okay. The reason why we're setting these restrictions is to avoid people putting in cables that are too long without need. Because if we exceed 200 meters of cable, we can have problems with doing the sharing. But we know for sure, if we keep the cable short and high quality, you will not run into any issues. We also say maximum 20 full HD monitors. I know that there are people that are running up to 26, but we cannot recommend it because we cannot guarantee it will work. So if you ask us the question, what about if I have 22? We cannot guarantee that it will work, but there are people doing it. So that one is in your hand. So as I said earlier, what do I do if I want to use a larger screen in the room, if I want to send the signal somewhere else? Then you need a standalone box that is included in the 20 units. If you need to run the cable longer than, let's say 5 meters, then you need an extender. And we recommend our HD-Base-T extender, where you can run up to 70 meters without any problems. This is also extremely useful when you want to close your loop. Here you don't need an extra DynamicShare, you just need to extend the cable on HT-T. So the whole idea, the whole concept is you add power to the table and you're ready to go with the Arthur Holm DynamicShare. The standalone box looks like this. You see, you will find the same input as you did on the other one, though you will also have the input for the bottom interface. And here you have a standard free HDMI input. You have the loop in and the loop out, and you have the inputs. And at the lower picture, you can see the remote. I know that connector is being changed as we speak. You have the external button. Some people saying, oh, these buttons are very rigid, very rough in design and so on. Normally they're being placed at the edge of the table. That's where the chairs are being placed and hitting the table. And if it isn't built this strong, then it's not going to last in that position, as the chairs will destroy them. Here's some example of where they're using DynamicShare. This is doing installation, and you can see we have a motorized microphone on the side. We have HDMI connectivity under the tape, and we have, this is the one with 3 buttons. That means it's with priority. Here another installation without priority, and 2 USB connectors and a speaker on the side and the up and down buttons, and it looks like this with this up running. On the Dynamic 3, the cable comes out a bit differently. It's the small hatch that opens up, and the cable comes out, but the concept is exactly the same. Here you will also find the buttons for the interface board close to the cable, and it's simple to do. You press view until you get the signal you want, and you press share, and you're ready to go. So we've been talking about DynamicShare. That's where each one can share their own contents. And the first monitor have to be connected to the loop. And maximum we can do is 20 units or recommended. DynamicLoop is where we take the signal from one place and distribute it to up to a couple of 100 monitors. There are some ways of doing that, and it's very simple, and there are some installation that is perfect for this kind of distribution, as the cabling becomes extremely simple. So you have one video input, and you just daisy chain them together using HDMI cables. But again, here it's only from one place you can do the sharing. You don't have the input on each one. The standalone box looks the same as the share, the loop, and you have the same connectivity. With the loop, here you can select input, but that will not be input from the loop system. There will be input from, for example, your local PC under the table, or if the loop is not on the server, that would be the server, for example. So we say maximum 19 monitors per line. So let's say I want to go to 100 monitors. What I'll do is I will take my source, I'll take an HDMI splitter, 1 in and let's say 5 out. And on the 5 out, I can have up to 19 monitors per unit. And by having 5, I get up to 95. If I take one more, I can get up to the 100. So where is this product useful? For example, in auditoriums, in reality, also in any type of boardroom tables or installations. But for example, if we have a U-shaped table, it's very easy to run lines down each side of the table. Here we did a very big installation, and you see that they're just daisy chaining, first of all, the control of the Arthur Holm on the RS422, but they're also daisy chaining the video signal. And it's very simple to do the cabling. You run the cable up in the walk path, and then you drag them from the side into the monitors. And the final result is like this. We have several hundred monitors in this room. If I remember correctly, we have 185 or something. So this is done in Nigeria, this installation, done by a German consulting company, installation company, and they did the whole test and set up in Germany. They packed everything and shipped to Nigeria. Very interesting process and very interesting results, all using DynamicLoop. But we can also use DynamicLoop in smaller environments. Let's say we have an auditorium, we have a podium. If you say you have at the podium, I have 3 connectivities, and you can easily swap between those connectivities, and you have one DynamicLoop, and you take the output, the HDMI output to the projector to the larger screen, and just with one unit, you can have 3 people presenting. They cannot present at the same time, but you change between the inputs by the toggle switch that we saw before, and you have 3 different cables. So it's pretty straightforward and a really cost-effective and very small installation in a presenter's podium like this. And here is the button that you can have. If it's a standalone, you can have that on the table. So we already did the recap of these 2 solutions. The ERT is our go-to unit for any installation. It's IP to RS422 interface control. When I say it's our go-to, it's because it makes installations and support extremely easy. I know, or we know, that there is a lot of control units that already have RS422, and you put everything up on that main control unit. But if you choose to use an Arthur Holm ERT, you can separate the Arthur Holm product from the rest of the product, still controlling them from the same unit. And it's very simple with the tools we have created to check everything is right, to check your programmation, and to do settings during setup. Furthermore, we can give you direct support from our factory, as the only thing we will be needing is the IP address of the ERT, and we can log on and see what the system is doing. If you have issues, if you need support, that takes no time. If you're doing it not using the Arthur Holm, we can also help you out, but you need to guide us through your control system to give us access to the product. An example of an installation where they had problems controlling our products. They had the ERT, they went and said, okay, we need to sort out, we need to start analyzing where is the problem coming from. So what they did, they took the AHlink app on their iPhone, they connected to the ERT via wireless, and they could check that all the products was acting from the app as they should. So it was very easy to determine that the problem wasn't coming from the ERT. So that was very simple and very quick doing the analysis. But what is the ERT and what's in it? We have ERT30 and ERT60. The ERT30 can hold 30 or control up to 30 devices. Why I'm saying devices is because it's not only monitors, but it's also speakers, retractable microphones, and so on. We have dip switches for the setup, for example, to activate the wireless connectivity, the radio signal for the, if you want to connect an OS device or an Android device. We have the configuration of the IP address and so on. There is also a service port, and we have the 2 output for AHnet1 and AHnet2. On top of that, there's also LED indicators that indicates the status of the product. The LEDs are placed on the front. And the other day I had a question for a customer. He said, okay, I activated the radio signal, but the light isn't coming up, or the LED isn't lighting up. And it is explained in the manual, but we're not always looking into it. We all know that the LED for the radio signal the wireless connectivity is activated when you have connectivity. And one more important thing is that the AHnet was not designed to be an end-user interface, but a system integrator interface. And therefore, you can only have one AH app connected to the unit at the time. This is also something we have created in our, or have integrated in our dynamic monitors and dynamic talk. So all of them have this function. That also means that you can go into an installation and you can go to one device and just activate the Bluetooth without touching the table at all. Activating the app, select that device, and you can control it. What can you control? You can control like auto adjustment, and you can change different settings and so on. So it's very simple also to service the products down the line. A bit how you're connecting your ERT, it's network, and then after the network, you can daisy chain them to your products. You can actually daisy chain between monitors and microphones and also speakers as you want. You don't have to separate them. The system will automatically see what kind of product is connected. But it is a way, if you take a 60, because 30 is not enough, you can divide them into 2 lines and also to keep the installation more clean and more understandable. So a small illustration of how it's working. Here we have created a video, which also tells you a bit about, if you haven't worked with our products before, how the products are installed into the table. Again, it was designed for the system integrator to run the setup and checking and addressing of the units. We have to say that since we did the development of this product, we have added a couple of products that can be used directly and also for the end user, like our speakers, where you can mute the sound, you can activate the speakers, and you can raise and lower the volume. So when you make an animation like this video, it's very simple to put the cable straight and exactly the right length. It could be nice if it was like that in real life. But this is to give you an idea about the connectivity. When you select the different products, there'll be different screen layout that is related to that product. But you can also imagine later on, you can go and actually connect to individual devices if something is not exactly as it should be. So you go into your device on your phone, you say scan for local devices, and local devices will pop up. You select the device that you want to work with or where you have work to do. And here you can see, for example, for Dynamic 2 control, for the first part, Dynamic 3 control, and Dynamic Talk control. You can see the IP address, the mask, the gateway. And you see at the bottom of the image on the left-hand side, you have a password. That password is to enter into factory settings. So instead of what we have done prior, where you have to go into the table, under the table to do some adjustments from the small display on the monitor housing, you can now do that from your mobile device in a more comfortable work environment. So here you have different functions. If we look at Dynamic 2 control, you can see you can take the monitor up and down. You can have the display on and off. You can activate and deactivate the buttons and choose input signal. So it's a very nice tool to have for the system integrator to do the installation and also the maintenance. Again, a bit what we talked about. If you want to use addressing setting, the easiest way is when you need to have for this the ERT. The ERT are connected, it's activated in the mode. So the first time you press a monitor, that will automatically become monitor number 1. The next one would be monitor number 2. The next one, monitor number 3. So it cannot be any more simple to set up an address. we always recommend to set up an individual address to each product. You can do a broadcast on RS422 to activate the monitors or take them up and down. But if you set an address for each monitor in a situation where you will be needing technical support, we can go in via the ERT and address exactly that monitor and support you on that monitor and get information from that monitor. When I said get information, we never have access to contents. We only have access to the settings of the product and the mechanical part. So the AH protocol to activate our products are the same. It's also the same for the Albiral products, as the controllers are the same. Depending a bit on the device, some have more function than other ones, but it's mainly related to the mechanical part. And as you see that they are different, you can have them all daisy chained together, and you'll still be able to control in the daisy chain, for example, a dynamic torque. So ERT, for sure, it's a big help in installation. If it's the first time you're working with our product, I will always beg you to get this device, because it can give you we can give you our support in no time, and it's straightforward, and you separate it from the rest, and that also means that in fault finding, if needed, it's straightforward. The app, the experience that we have with the app is that it runs extremely stable on OS, and depending a bit on Android, what type of device or what type of mark or maker the phone is, and also the model. So as I said before, it is the device that is designed for the system integrator. But as we came out recently with speakers to be built into the table, omnidirectional speakers, it was straightforward to have a part of the app that will activate the speaker, where we can also control the volume, and we can mute it. The speaker can be connected with Bluetooth as well, if you have a Bluetooth interface. It's an active speaker with 2 times 36 watt. It has a bass reflect, and it's not just a transducer that we are moving around. We have the whole speaker housing that is a bass reflect with a bass reflect port. It's a wooden cabinet, a speaker wooden cabinet, to create a fantastic sound and a flat frequency response that is really simple to use, also with microphones, mainly due to that the microphones are pointing away and from the speaker, and also because it has a flat frequency response. So this product can be installed from above, retrofitted into a table, or you can have it flush mounted into the table, and you can also have it installed from below, so it has the smallest impact. When you install it from below, the hatch, when the speaker is down, it can be veneered, so you don't see anything else except from the cutout in the table. So here are the features on the AHlink that you can do: open and close, volume, and mute. So that was a bit about the DynamicShare, DynamicLoop, ERT, and AHlink. We are continuously developing our product. We are doing whatever we can to make the system integrators' life easier and solve problems. We will now go to Q&A, and there'll be some more people joining me on the panel.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Henrik.
Good afternoon, Monse. Are there more people on board now? Or is it just you and I?
I think it's only you and I. So I will start with the questions that we have received. We have received quite a few. So the first one is, which HDMI will you share, HDMI 1 or HDMI 2?
You can share you can share both. It doesn't matter which one it is. As I said, if there's nothing connected, you will not have when you're toggling, you will not see the signal. Of course, one is the first one that pops up, so it makes sense to have that one.
Okay, perfect. And the second one is, which sort of control ports are used for integration with Crestron or Extron? Is it RS322 or is it dry contacts?
In general, of course, we are using more RS422. We have dry contact as well. Dry contact is very simple to use, but it's also time consuming to make the cables. Where the RS422, you can run it on Cat5 cable, or Cat5 cables are difficult to come by now, more or less, so it's Cat6. It's very cheap and it's less time consuming using these kind of cables.
Perfect. And the next question is, can we daisy chain with DynamicShare to the main screen of the room?
With DynamicShare, you can do that. You will have to have a separate DynamicShare box. So you'd use that output. Some people have used the loop out, and that will work, but it's not as stable because it's not a closed loop. So you can do that, and you should use a separate box for that screen or projector.
Perfect. And the next one is, how can I connect input and output to room HDMI matrix like Extron DXP 1616?
It is the same. What you'll do is you'll take the HDMI signal out of the box and take that to the matrix. Again, that will be a separate box. You have full control. If you would take it from one of the monitors, it will be the image on the monitor. If you take that split out, that will be the image of the monitor you'll be sending, and not the image of the whole setup, if that monitor shouldn't be sharing. So you need a separate box, and you use the output that you normally will connect to a screen and take that to the matrix.
So we need to add the DynamicShare standalone to the system, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that's the right way to do it.
Okay, and also the next question is related to this. Do I need DynamicShare standalone? Do I need two DynamicShare standalone to connect input and output to the matrix?
No, you just need one. You just need one for that.
Okay, fantastic, fantastic. And then we have some other questions that we have also received. And the next one is, can DynamicShare be used with manual monitors like H1 or H2?
Yeah, you can use it with that, and we can also integrate the interface button into the monitor. But due to the physical size of the monitor, we will have to locate the standalone share box underneath the table to hide it. It doesn't fit inside.
Perfect. And the last question is, what happens if I want to share the input signal with a 98 screen that is located at more than 3 meters from the last monitor?
Again, you can try with a HDMI cable. If it's good quality, it will normally work. We have to be careful with the overall length of cables that we are adding, as we know that we're decreasing the signal. If it doesn't work out, then it's use a HDBaseT extender.
Okay, perfect. And there is a new one which says, what is the main advantage of DynamicShare compared to a wireless sharing system?
Yeah, it's security is one thing for 100%. Also, the daily use, no software upgrades, no blocking and internet connectivity, for example. No reason to install anything on your laptop. And we have to remember we are in the technical part of the AV industry. The user can be a person that doesn't have a clue, and they have to use it as well. That could be an accountant. Not saying that accountant doesn't know about AV, but in general, that's our experience. When I'm traveling and visiting customers, consultants, and they all have a solution, one or the other, and I cannot tell how many times when I do a presentation, I end up connecting with a cable, with a hard wire. And so why is that? It can be that I don't have the latest version on my laptop. It can be that they don't have the latest version, and so on. So depending on the type of company, if it's a company that has an IT department that take care and make sure that everything is up to date, then normally everything runs fine. If it's a mid-sized company that don't have that person, then often just a cable is the best and easy way to go, and you don't have any frame delays either.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and this is another question concerning the speaker. I need to know the voltage of the speaker, and if passive and active, and if it is passive or active, and if the range and what is the range of the speaker?
Yes, it is an active speaker. It has a 4-inch driver. It's two-way, and it has 2 times 36 watt, which is plenty of this. The range, if you're asking for the frequency response, I cannot say that. By heart. We have the focus in the speech area, and but it also plays music fantastic. So it has a pretty wide range, but I do not have the facts here. If you want, please send your email to Monza and I'll send you the information.
Perfect. And the last question, can you share the way of connection with DXFake 1616 by Extron using the DynamicShare standalone box?
Any HDMI signal you can share that, yeah.
If we can share the schematics. Yeah, the answer is yes. And if you want to email, yes, you can send me a message
with the question, and we'll send you the information. That's another thing. If you need, and if you a support from us, and you're not used to working with the DynamicShare, we'll be happy to make a schematic for you, a simple schematic that shows how your situation can be solved with the DynamicShare or DynamicLoop.
Okay, and another question. What happens if I want to share the input signal in a project of 23 monitors in the same table?
Yeah, we do not recommend 23. As I said, there are people doing it. I know somebody doing up to 26, but we cannot guarantee that. And that's why we stick to 20, where we have a bit of margin if there's errors, and also if the cable quality is not right. So we do recommend a maximum 20. Though what you can do is you can mix DynamicShare and Loop. That means that you can have, like, say, 18 monitors, and the rest with the DynamicLoop, meaning that they cannot share from the rest of the monitors. If you said 22 and we have 18, that will be 4 monitors that cannot share. If that will work for you, then that's a solution.
Very well. So we don't have any more questions so far.
Okay, good. You can still ask us questions. You have our contact details. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope that it was worth your time, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.